Now, as we talk about praying persistently, I want to give you an example. My wife has an auntie. Her name was Vernie Morgan. And Vernie was the first person in her family to get converted. Now, she came from a very rough family. Many of the people in her family had a history of drugs and jail time and prison and alcohol. And so Vernie was the first person to become a believer. Not long after she was converted, she was listening to her pastor preach one night. He was preaching from Acts 16 about Paul and Silas in the jail at Philippi. You remember the story that God sent an earthquake and the chains fell off of them, and the prison guard started to take his own life because he thought that Paul and Silas had escaped, and he knew that if his prisoners escaped, it would cost his life. And so he started to commit suicide, but Paul saw what he was doing and he said, "No, don't do that." He said, "We are still here." That jailer, prison guard, was under deep conviction. And he said to Paul, "What must I do to be saved?" Here was Paul's answer. He said, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and you shall be saved, and all of your family." Now, when the pastor said that, when the pastor said, "and all of your family," Vernie Morgan's heart leaped within her, because she believed that God was giving her a promise at that moment that every member of her family would be converted. And so Vernie started praying. She started praying specifically and passionately and persistently. See, she prayed for some time and nothing happened, but she was determined. Before long, her sister, one of her sisters, gave her life to the Lord Jesus. Then one of her brothers, who happened to be my wife's father, became a believer. And Vernie kept praying persistently. Before long, one of her children became a believer. And then another one. Do you know that I attended Vernie Morgan's funeral a few years ago? At her funeral, it was noted that every person in her family had become a believer. Isn't that amazing? Now, it took many years to do that. In fact, Vernie prayed for her husband for 18 years before he became a believer. He was not a nice man, and he had no love for God. But Vernie would not give up because she knew how to pray persistently, and she believed that God had given her a promise. For 18 years she prayed for him. And then her husband, Calvin, gave his life to the Lord. Not only did he become a believer, but he became a pastor. And for the next 20 years, Calvin and Vernie pastored many churches in the United States. See, Vernie understood something, the power of persistent prayer. Now, I want to say to you, it may be true of you what was true of Vernie. You may be the only member of your family that is a believer, or you may have people in your church that are like that. Only one person a believer. I want you to tell them this story. And I want you to teach them about prayer. See, powerful prayer has three specific components. It is specific, it is passionate, and it is persistent. We do not give up until the prayer is answered. Okay, that's enough teaching about prayer and intercession. I think you understand.